Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bigger on the Inside, the new Who Doctor Who Watch Along podcast. Now, we're here with another special interview episode. This week, we are joined by the amazing Colum Sanson-Regan, who you will know as the double for David Tennant. You will probably know him best for his role in Journey's End, in which the 10th Doctor spawns a new body, the Meta-Crisis Doctor, and it was Colum's job to stand in for that. And we've got some amazing stories about working with David, working with Kylie Minogue on a Voyage, and some really interesting Doctor Who behind-the-scenes stories that I don't think you've heard before. So stick around to the end and enjoy. So out of all the jobs you can have, it seems like being David Tennant's body double it's not a career move, it doesn't seem. I want to be David Tennant's body double. How does that come about?
By accident or something. It wasn't. It's not a tick you put in a box, that's for sure. When your careers officer asks you, what are you going to do after school or whatever, nobody says that. I was with a casting agency that for whom I had done extra work. So they put you in a bed in Casualty, or they dress you up in a pirate's outfit and get you to walk past the camera for some random film in Bristol, and then it's on cutting room floor. Anyway, I'd done a whole bunch of these different things. I'd done some creature work for Torchwood, which was fun, where you dress up, or rather than don't dress big, give you the big costume, and it's night shoots. And so we're in like abandoned churches and kind of car parks and the back streets of Cardiff, crawling around in scary suits. So that was fun, actually. And that was all I'd done, really. And then I got a call one day asking could I come in, and they didn't say what it was for. So that I went in the morning, and usually as an extra, you're put on the bus, or shoved away somewhere, and they come and get you some time in the afternoon, then leave you standing in the cold for a couple of hours. But this time, the AD came out to meet me, said, "Oh, it's wonderful to see you. Here's your trailer," and led me to a trailer and opened up the door and said, "Oh, can you put that on, please?" and pointed to David, the suit, the Doctor Who suit. Now, bear in mind, nobody told me what was going on. I just thought I was coming to do an extras gig. And I said, okay, and I stepped inside, and she closed the door. And I was thinking, I'll put it on. And then she opened back up the door and said, "Oh, you need this," and handed me a script. And and so this was at 7:30 in the morning or something like that, and I was like, I'm not sure what's going on here. So, and I had looked through the script, and it was for the what was the one with the Titanic in the sky? I can never remember the name of it. It was a Christmas special. So that was it. Voyage of the Damned. That's right. So I had to call her back and say, "Sorry, can you just explain why do I have to? Why am I putting the suit on? And why have you just handed me a script?" And she said, "Oh yeah, okay. So David's not here today," and we did a whole scene, which was which we've shot from all the other angles, or rather, we shot it with the camera trained on David. But he's not able to be here today, so we want to continue shooting the scene, but do it from the other, so getting the other actors' lines in. So the idea with me learning the script was that the other actors had to do their lines, and so I would just respond. I didn't have to act at all, because that would be cut out, because they had all the shots of David saying his lines. So that's how they set it up anyway. And so lo and behold, my first job was being in a scene with Kylie Minogue and various other people, and actually having to deliver lines as the Doctor. And I said, as long as everyone knows I'm not an actor, and I'm not even going to try and act, I'm just going to give the line. Tell me where to stand. Tell me exactly what to do so I can't get it wrong. Tell me where to stand, when to move, because he had certain movements as well that I had to match up. So they had to, it was a case of looking back from the take the day before and saying, okay, well, on that line, you'll have to move to there. and etc. etc. So that was it. So it was a pretty intense first day, and it was just take, you just take it as it comes, and I just did my best really. And after, at the end of the day, they said, "That's great. Can you come back tomorrow? Oh, there's some pickup shots we want to do as well, where because that had angels in it, and there's one point where I think there was one of the halos or something dropped at the doctor's feet. Something had happened anyway, where it was just a shot of his feet. Something had happened where something fell at his feet. Can't remember exactly now. So then they did that shot as well. And then the director, I think the next day thought, here, there's a bunch of these pickup shots that we can do, and just make use of you while you're here. And after that, they got me back more times after that. So they continued to get me back for that episode, because David had gone to Scotland, and it was the family thing. I think his mum wasn't well, and so it was handy having me there. So they continued to get me back, and then every now and then I'd get a call to come back for something else, like a shot of him running in the distance. They'd say, okay, we'll do a second unit on that, and just get Colum to do the running while David's busy on set. So I got in for that, some of that, kind of learned how to run like David Tennant. And then the one I spent most time on was the Journey's End, where there's the double doctor. Everybody was in that. So you had Catherine Tate and Billy Piper and John Barrowman, and it was a lot of fun to be on, because they were having an absolute blast. All of them, they were really enjoying themselves. Noel Clarke, and it was like a really interesting bunch of people, and they were all getting on really well. And I was just kind of in the middle of it, not really saying very much, just standing where I was supposed to stand, doing what I was supposed to do. I did get to fly got to fly the TARDIS. Got instructions from the doctor on how to fly the TARDIS convincingly and stuff like that. So it was great.
What's it like then when you're in that scenario and you're looking around and, like you said, you're seeing Billy, you're seeing Catherine, you're seeing David? Is it a very pinch yourself moment? Because at that point, the series was at its peak almost. It hasn't really reached viewing figures since then. So there must be a thing of going, this is really mental. It's sort of an outsider sort of looking in.
Yeah, it was. And the thing is that I wasn't, growing up in Ireland, I never watched Doctor Who. I didn't have big exposure to it at all. So my first Doctor I saw was Christopher Eccleston, and that was great. I mean, I'm a fan of Christopher Eccleston anyway, so I totally bought into it. And then, but I didn't have the big back history that, and that emotional attachment that a lot of people have with the show. So I was coming in as kind of an outsider who didn't really know too much about the mythology or the backstories of the show, and so I only kind of realized not what a big deal it was, but there's a couple of friends of mine, when I told them what I was doing, their mouths dropped and their head went to the side. They're like, what the, can you take any photographs, and can you do this? Of course you can't on set, you can't do any of that. But their excitement then kind of made me excited. Like, they were really, really into it, and can we meet at the end of the week and please tell us everything, kind of thing. And then of course when the Voyage of the Damned came out at Christmas, and it was a massive hit, wasn't it? It was just like it was Doctor Who fever around that time.
I think that's the most viewed episode that there's been since the show came back in 2005. That's the highest episode viewing.
It was, yeah, it was huge. Yeah, so I just thought, yeah, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that, and then when I kept getting called back, each time I thought, this is cool. I'm good with this, and I just kind of kept my mouth shut and stood where I was told to stand and stuff like that. And there was interaction with people on set, and David was really nice to me. He's a very interesting guy, and he's he's very interested in people. So he was that's how he came across to me anyway. He was always asking about people in there, kind of how they were, and kind of know details about the different cameramen, about, you know what I mean, different stuff about their lives, so he could do conversations. And then I was releasing an album as well at the time, so there was a lot of conversation about studio work and kind of writing songs and the different kind of artistic processes and stuff like that. So it was an interesting time for me. And then plus the Doctor Who thing was thrown into it, and as well, my first wife was having our first child as well, all around that time. So there was just a lot going on.
Incredible. I think the thing that shocks me the most about the story of you getting involved with the show is that it wasn't until you got there that you found out that was your job. Like, I can't imagine who was it have been your manager or someone who kind of dropped the memo. Oh yeah, Colum looks like David Tennant from behind. Like, do you have any idea how that conversation came about, that you were given that role?
They just must have gone through the files on who they had on their books, who was approximately the same height and same hair color. Because on the question that was asked to me on the from the agency the night before, because it wasn't during the day they called me, it was at night. And usually they don't do that. You get a text message or something during the day, but this was in the evening. This is after dinner time, must have been 8 o'clock or something. So, and they said, do you mind having a haircut? And I said, no, I don't mind at all. But that was the only kind of indication they gave me that something out of the ordinary might be going on. So that was what the haircut was for. And then I went in to get my haircut, and I didn't know that Kylie Minogue was part of this show at all. I didn't know what was going on. So I went in to get my haircut, and I heard this Australian voice and looked around. There's this, little Australian lady turned around saying hello to me, and I said hello. And then as I sat there, it kind of dawned on me, hang on a second. No, not really. So, I didn't say anything, but sure enough, I gathered very quickly that, yeah, it was Kylie Minogue.
There's worse haircuts to have than David Tennant's.
It was.
I think most people would like that haircut.
Yeah, but it was just very surreal, It was very surreal. And then that weekend, I had a gig in Leicester, and me and the band were going, and I got in the car with the boys and said, okay, you've got to guess who I've been working with this week. And so we got past Birmingham, and they still hadn't guessed. This is driving from Cardiff, and they still hadn't guessed. I had to tell them eventually, but we had, it was kind of somewhere between Birmingham and Leicester that I finally let slip. Or I finally told them, but it was all that time they'd gone through so many different people. But so yeah, and then like I said, when I told them what I was doing, the kind of the big deal of what Doctor Who was culturally, I think then I started to appreciate it. And then I started to investigate it a bit more and realized that, because like I said, I was coming from a position of, oh, that's just a TV show that I've heard about. But it's a big deal in the UK. It's massive, isn't it? It's like, and in the US as well, actually, now. But it has been in the UK for a long time. And in the US, I've got, a lot of contacts I've made have come through the Doctor Who stuff in the US, because they've got all sorts of conventions and everything there, and it's a big deal there as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you get approached about conventions a lot then? Is that a side of the fandom that you've invested in or not invested so much time in?
I did a couple of conventions around the UK. Must be 6 years ago, because just before my first book came out. So I didn't actually have a copy of my book, which was annoying, because it still hadn't come back from the publisher. So at the conventions, I was just standing there in front of a table, which should be full of books and kind of stuff to sell or give leaflets to sell. I was just sitting at a blank table in the suit, and I had my hair done like him as well. And sure enough, you had people who knew who I was just because they were such fans and had kind of, scoured the credits list or whatever they did. And I got a little bit in the kind of behind the scenes documentary as well. There's a little clip of me in that. So I did a bunch of conventions around that time. And I'd never been to a sci-fi convention before. So that was entertaining as well. I mean, you know, you don't often get two Chewbaccas in a room. But this one was, yeah.
So because it sounds like you're definitely coming from outside. Obviously, you've mentioned being in a band and writing books. This Boulder double work is by no means your main line of work. What is it that you were coming into all this?
I'd joined the casting agency because I was working on an album, and albums suck up money. So I was also doing gigs, but I joined the casting agency just to get extra money in, and because, I mean, now since then I've gone on to, you know, I'm teaching now, but at that point I didn't have a PGC or anything. I didn't have any qualifications to teach. So, and as well, the fact that I have a couple of books published, that has helped me get the teaching position, because I'm a functioning writer. If there's such a proper thing, anyway. So I was coming from that situation where I was just purely from a musical background, and I didn't have any investment in any of the jobs I was getting in terms of the casting. You got people when you join that extra crew in the casting, you get people there who are training to be actors or are actors and are between jobs and stuff like that. So they're all in that kind of environment, and this is their natural scene, and they've all got aspirations within that industry, but I didn't at all. So I did feel like kind of like an outsider, or at least at the fringes when you're on the casting bus and all the conversations are going on. It was, I was kind of on the fringes of that. I was never in the middle of it.
Yeah. So when David announced that he was leaving the show, I'm not sure how much involvement or how much you knew about that before he announced it. But when that announcement comes, is it almost like, oh, that's my job gone as well? Like, or do you then get given new roles within that crew, or how does that work for you?
I think the last thing I did was called A Girl in the Fireplace, which wasn't actually. It wasn't a Doctor Who. It was one from within that universe. It was his old. It's terrible now that I don't even know her name. It was his
I think you might be referring to the Sarah Jane Adventures, I believe. Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So it was in one of those, and that was the last one I did, and everybody's been really nice to me, and I think that because by then the crew, you know what I mean, then I built up relationships in terms of very casual ones, but nonetheless the crew knew me, and I kind of knew some of them. So I think that they knew that was the last one, because that was after Journey's End and everything. So, but I didn't really put myself forward for anything else. I didn't renew my membership with the casting agency once it expired. After that, I kind of thought, I'll leave it there. That's quite a nice place to leave it. I don't want to go back to standing in a field for 6 hours to be in the background of some shot. And then, well, as it happened, there was money coming in from elsewhere, so I could actually, I wasn't dependent on it. So no, it just felt like a weird kind of chapter that happened, and that I didn't have any kind of aspirations or investment in it. It was just something that kind of happened to me for a while, and then it finished. So and I didn't have any kind of emotional attachment to it. It was fun and it was weird, set all that time. Tell you what I really liked was just being on set all that time and watching all the work that happened, and watching how the directors did their work and how they dealt with the cameramen and the cast, and how the cast and the director kind of figured out the way they were doing each scene. So some scenes went bang, 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 dead easy, no problem. Everybody knew what they were doing. Other scenes required work and a lot of talk. And I felt in a privileged situation because I didn't have to be involved in it. I didn't have to make any decisions. I was just like a fly on the wall to all this stuff. And I mean, in my short stories, the short stories I released last year, there's 3 stories in there about people making movies. And I think that came directly from my experiences of working on the sets there.
Yeah, I was going to say, perfect segue there, fly on the wall to the 2 books you have cleverly placed behind you there. Tell us a little bit about that. How does something like that come around? Because that's it seems from talking to you for this last half hour, you are a musician, we're still our actor extra, and now author and teacher. What's going on?
It's when instead I didn't go to university when I left school. In fact, I dropped out of the last year of school, and just busked instead. Took my guitar and busked. And the 2 things that I loved was music and writing. And I made a decision then that if I couldn't do it with a pen and a guitar, with a pen or a guitar, then I wasn't really going to try and do it. The only 2 ways I was going to try and interact and support and build something for myself was through the guitar and the pen. But I also thought, look, I'm not really going to have anything to write about till I'm in my 50s probably. So I better get busy with the guitar because I couldn't play it very well. So I had to get busy with that and learn how to play it and learn how to sing and all that stuff, because I wasn't very good at that either. But when you close off all the other avenues to yourself and you just leave yourself with one thing, and because I loved it so much, I mean, there's a certain kind of there's for me, music is it touches kind of spirituality as well as other things. There's something deep in music that soothes me in some way, let's put it that way, on different levels. So I just devoted myself to music then, always with the thing of I was always writing just bits and pieces, with the idea that some way when I'm older and I've got some good experiences, I'll write something. So that was that. And then, as it happened, I started to write The Fly Guy in my 30s. So it was before I kind of anticipated doing it. And I got very deep into it. It was something I couldn't really let go of. It started off as a short story, which I couldn't make sense of. It bothered me. I wrote it, and usually because I love short stories, I love the form, and you can step away from them pretty quickly. They don't take up your entire life, you know. And I'd written this short story, and it didn't make sense to me, and something was troubling me about it. And then I realized driving back from a gig one night, actually, when the radio was broken in the car, and I realized that I had the beginning and the end of a long narrative there. That's why it didn't make sense, because I actually had right at the beginning, right at the end, those 2 scenes stuck together, and that was it. Then I thought, oh, I'm going to have to try and fill in that middle bit. And I didn't anticipate how long it would be, and it turned into a novel. And that was mostly me coming back from gigs, and sitting either in front of a pad or the laptop at about 1 o'clock in the morning and writing till about 3 or half 3 when the house came out. And because I wasn't teaching or anything at the time, so I didn't have to get up for work. So that worked. Although when I was doing the extra stuff, I was also editing the book sometimes. So, or rather I was when that started. So, So it was something I'd always planned to do. It just came along sooner than I thought it did, and almost by accident. I didn't say, "Oh, I know, I'm going to write a novel now," and plot it out. I wrote something that confused me. I tried to make sense of it, and it just grew and grew and grew till I thought, "All right, I've got it. I've got it this much. I might as well try and finish it." And then after that, I was lucky with my publisher. I sent it off to agents and publishers in the UK and got the usual amount of rejections as authors do. And then speaking to somebody who was a Doctor Who fan in the States, and she said, "Have you tried approaching American publishers?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I never thought of that." And she said, "Well, what difference does it make where it's published? Because, a lot of now it's print on demand, a lot of the books you do. So they don't print off thousands of books and then try and sell them. When they get an order in, that order is printed and sent. So they'd have, a print on demand in the UK. So if you ordered in the UK, it would be printed and sent in the UK. So it's kind of the newer model of publishing. So in that sense, it doesn't matter where your publisher is based. And there's a lot of independent publishers in America, much more than in the UK. So I said, "Okay, that's a great idea, but you know what? I'm tired of sending it out. I don't know if I've got it in me to write another, to keep sending it out because I've gotten that many rejections." And she said, "I'll be your agent." I said, "But you're not an agent." She said, "Yeah, but they don't know that. So I'll represent you." So she did. This person who I got to know, she contacted me because she was putting, listen to this. She contacted me because she was putting together a little film which was made up of David Tennant running. Right. So it was a film of just clips of him running, which she had put a soundtrack to. And of course, all the soundtrack was songs whose theme was running as well. And she noticed that when she was researching this and putting it together, she noticed that there were some things that it wasn't him running in. So she tracked me down and said, "Do I have your permission to include you in this?" And that's how and then she ended up being my agent, even though she had no experience in being an agent. Nonetheless, she was the one who approached the publisher for me, and ended up getting me a book deal.
So there you have it. That was our lovely chat with Colum. Thank you so much, Colum, for giving us 20 minutes, half an hour of your time. Genuinely such a lovely guy. As mentioned in the interview, if you go to the description, if I've remembered, hopefully I have, you can find Colum's books there. If not, just bung his name in Google and it's the first result that comes up. So thanks very much once again, guys, for listening. Do subscribe, and hopefully we're going to have some more Series 5 guests coming soon, because we're moving on to Series 5 next. So perhaps some new calibre of guests are on the way as well. So subscribe, like and all that, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.